I'm Nate, and this is Holy Land Travel HQ. Today, let's talk about the gates of Jerusalem's Old City. Jerusalem is one of the oldest cities in the world, with archaeological finds dating as far back as 3300 BC. Since its founding, Jerusalem has been conquered, sacked, reconquered, and fought over almost endlessly. But it's also been the focal point of God's interaction with his people and the location where his son Jesus walked as a mere human. Through all of this turmoil, the city of Jerusalem has not always looked the same. Its city walls, gates, and neighborhoods have expanded and contracted as its culture ebbed and flowed. Today, Jerusalem looks very different than it did even 100 years ago, and most likely drastically different than it looked in the time of Jesus. So how has Jerusalem changed over the years? Let's take a look at the gates of Jerusalem's Old City and find out. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, famed archaeologist Yigal Shalo worked in the area that is today known as the City of David Archaeological Park. In his excavations, he was able to find structural remains from the early Bronze Age, or roughly 3300 BC. At this time in history, Jerusalem was occupied by the Canaanites. We don't get a name for this city, though, until the time of Abraham, around 2000 BC at the earliest. In Genesis 14:18, Abram meets with Melchizedek, the king of Salem. Salem comes from the Hebrew root word shalom, which means peace. At the time of Joshua, or roughly 1400 BC, the city was referred to as the Jebusite city, and later in Judges it's referred to as Jabus, which would have made it the city of the Jebusites. Whatever Jerusalem's name was before David conquered it and established his reign there, not much remains that gives us a clue as to how the city looked. It isn't until the time of Solomon and the First Temple period that we get any idea for how many gates there were and what their names were. At this time, the city occupied the southeastern hill exclusively and had a population of about 2,000 people. By the end of Solomon's reign, the city had grown to a population of about 5,000 people and expanded north with the construction of the Temple Mount. The Bible makes note of 17 gates from the time of David and Solomon, some of which scholars have hypothesized on their location based on how they're described in the text. By Hezekiah's reign, the city had expanded west and grown to a population of about 25,000 people. Many of the gates simply cannot be placed, though, because the biblical narrative is telling a story and not providing an architectural history. Most of the gates are discussed in the book of Nehemiah, though some are referenced in Kings, Chronicles, and Jeremiah. When Nehemiah returns to rebuild Jerusalem in 539 BC, he assesses the city wall and its gates. Scholars rely on Nehemiah because the list is so exhaustive, but also because these were the names that would have remained in the corporate memory of both the exiled and remaining population. Hence, they were most likely the same names from the time of Solomon. The first is Ephraim Gate, whose location is unknown, but it was most likely on the northern wall, probably the northwest corner, since Ephraim was north of Jerusalem. The second is Corner Gate. Its location was unknown, but it was possibly on the northwest corner of the Temple Mount. The third is the Gate of the Foundation, whose location is completely unknown. The fourth is the Fountain Gate, which was likely located in the eastern wall on the southeastern hill, near the pool that was fed by the Gihon Spring. This would not be the Pool of Siloam, though. The original gate may have been Canaanite. The fifth is Valley Gate. It was likely located on the western side of the southeastern hill, leading to the Tyropoeon Valley, also known as the Central Valley. Archaeological research in this area revealed a gate complex dating to this period. The original gate may have also been Canaanite. Sixth is the Fish Gate, possibly located on the northwest side of the Temple Mount. This would be the gate where the fish market was located. Also, this would be the gate that is referred to when people call the modern-day Damascus Gate the Fish Gate. Seventh is the Dung Gate, which was located at the most southern point of the city, much farther south than today's Dung Gate. Eighth was the Sheep Gate, which was possibly on the north or northeast section of the city wall, perhaps at the Temple Mount. Ninth is the Old Gate. It was possibly located west of the Temple Mount, near the Fish Gate. It might also be an alternate name for another gate. 10th is the Water Gate, which was possibly located at the source of the Gihon Spring. 11th was the Horse Gate, which most likely was located on the east side of the Ophel near the Temple Mount. 12th was the East Gate, which was located on the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. 13th was Muster Gate, whose location was also unknown. 14th was the Gate of the Guard, which was possibly on the north wall or the northernmost point of the east wall. 15th was the New Gate. It was connected to the king's palace. It was possibly located near the Temple Mount. Due to the name, the gate may also be an alternate name for another gate. It is not associated with the modern-day New Gate. 16th is Benjamin Gate, which was possibly located on the north wall of the city. It could also be an alternate name for the Ephraim Gate, since both tribes were north of Jerusalem. And 17th was the Potsherd Gate, which was most likely located on the south wall, given that Jeremiah was facing the Hinnom Valley when he exited the gate. When Nehemiah returned to take governorship of Jerusalem, the size of the city had shrunk back to its Solomonic size with a population of 4,500 people. By the Second Temple period, the city had grown and expanded. Under the Hasmoneans, it expanded west again, and the population increased to roughly 30,000 people. By the time of Herod, the city expanded north with a population of 40,000 people. Though it is likely that some of the gates that were present in the First Temple period were still around in the Second Temple period after Nehemiah's governorship, we don't get much discussion on the gates until we reach the New Testament, along with a little bit of information from Josephus in the first century. In Josephus's book, War of the Jews, he only mentions two gates, the Geneth Gate and the Essene Gate. Josephus places the Geneth Gate along a northern fortification line west of the Temple Mount. Scholars have noted that the word Geneth is a Greek transliteration of the Hebrew word for garden. Scholars place this gate on the northwestern hill where a quarry and garden was located. The quarry and garden in question would be none other than Golgotha. Josephus places the Essene Gate on the southernmost point of the southwestern hill, or what is today known as Mount Zion. Recently, a gate dating to the Second Temple period was discovered and excavated next to the Protestant cemetery located on the grounds of Jerusalem University College. As we know, the Romans sacked Jerusalem and set it ablaze in 70 AD after the Jewish revolt. By this time, the city had expanded north even more, beyond the walls that we see today, and the population doubled to around 80,000 people. In 135 AD, after the Second Jewish Revolt, also known as the Bar Kokhba Revolt, Rome renamed Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina and renamed the province of Judea to Palestina after the Israelites' former enemy, the Philistines. By 135 AD, Jerusalem lacked fortifications, but it is likely that some of the gatehouses and structures or their foundations remained. The only records that scholars have of any gates from this time period are from pilgrim accounts. 3 pilgrims provided data on what they saw when they visited. The first was an anonymous pilgrim from Bordeaux, France, around 334 AD. The second was Theodosius, a pilgrim from the region of Cappadocia in what is modern-day Turkey. He made his pilgrimage in 451 AD. As a monk, he founded the Cenobitic way of monastic living in the Judean desert. A third individual was Bishop Arcuf, a Frank bishop from Gaul who traveled the Holy Land around 670 AD. Between the 3 of these men, 4 gates were named. The first is Neapolis Gate, which was located on the north wall where the road led north to the Roman city of Flavia Neapolis. Today, this city goes by its modern Arabic name of Nablus. Inside Neapolis Gate was a semicircular public square with a column in the middle with a statue of Hadrian on top of it. The gate itself was built by the Romans as a victory arch for suppressing the Jewish revolt in 135 AD. The statue was erected to honor Emperor Hadrian, who had changed the name of the city and the province in order to spite the Jews and Romanize the city. During the Islamic periods, the gate became known as the Gate of the Column. In the 1980s, remains of the Roman gate were found under the structure of today's Damascus Gate. The second is Benjamin Gate. According to Theodosius, the gate was located on the east wall, just north of the Temple Mount. There is no indication that this gate is associated with the modern-day Lions Gate, though. Third was Tower Gate. Located on the west wall, it was named after the towers that Herod built in his palace compound. Later gates in this location were the Gate of David and the modern-day Jaffa Gate. The fourth was Tekoa Gate. Scholars sometimes associate this gate with the Gate of the Essenes because it faced south. Bishop Arcuff refers in his account to a gate he called the Tekoa Gate because it faced south towards Tekoa. The Islamic period covers 4 different Islamic occupations. The first 2 were the Umayyads and the Abbasids between 638 AD and 1099 AD. The third was the Ayyubids between 1187 AD and 1250 AD. And the fourth was the Mamluks between 1250 AD and 1517 AD. Unlike the Roman period, scholars have a lot in terms of information on gates and names through the whole Islamic period. They have the account of Bishop Arcuff in the 7th century AD and the account of the Arab geographer al-Muqaddasi from the 10th century AD. There are also several Islamic sources and lesser-known Christian pilgrimage accounts. The first gate was Bab el-Amud, or the Gate of the Column, which was located on the north side of the city. The primary northern gate, it was named because of the large column with a statue of the Emperor Hadrian on top of it. The modern-day Damascus gate sits on the spot where the Roman and Muslim gate once stood. The second was Bab es-Sahara, or the Watchful Gate. It was located on the eastern section of the northern wall, in the same spot as the Ottoman gate that we know today as Herod's Gate. It was named for the Muslim cemetery es-Sahara, located just northwest of the gate. Third was Bab Ariha, or Jericho Gate. It was located on the northern section of the eastern wall, just north of the Temple Mount. Today, Lion's Gate sits on or near the spot where Jericho Gate once stood. Fourth was Bab el-Maghreba, or the Gate of the Moors. It was located on the eastern section of the southern wall of the city. The gate was established in the Mamluk period. It was originally named for the North African Muslims who settled this area of Jerusalem in the 16th century AD. This gate is not associated with today's Mughrabi Gate, which is the main entrance for non-Muslims onto the Temple Mount. However, that gate is aptly named for similar reasons. Fifth was Bab Silwan, or Gate of Siloam. It was located on the eastern fortification line of the southeastern hill and was the city's exit to the Kidron Valley in the vicinity of the ancient pool of Siloam. The gate was named for the Arab village of Silwan, which was in existence by the 10th century AD. Sixth was Bab Jub Aramaiah, or the Gate of Jeremiah's Grotto. It was located on the southern tip of the southeastern hill. Seventh was Bab Sahiyun, or Zion Gate, also known as Bab Harat el-Yehud, or the Jewish Quarter Gate. It was located in the western section of the southern wall. The foundation of this gate was discovered approximately 50 to 100 yards east of the modern-day Zion Gate. Eighth was Bab Mihrab Daoud, or David's Oratory Gate, and later it was called Bab el-Khalil, or the Gate of the Friend. It was the sole gate on the western wall of the city. Though it was not located on the same spot as today's Jaffa Gate, it was in the same area and provided the same access. Ninth was Portavilli Fulonis, or the Gate of Fuller's House. It was located on the northern wall in the northwestern corner of the city. 10th was Bab el-Balat, or the Gate of the Court. Its location was unknown. And 11th was Bab Etai, or the Gate of the Desert Wanderings. Its location is also unknown. This gate is also mentioned by Muqaddasi. However, Muqaddasi's spelling of the gate may be incorrect. If so, and the title amended to Bab en-Naya, or the Nia Gate, the gate's name would reference the 6th century AD Nia Ecclesia Theotokos, or the New Church of the Theotokos, on the southwestern hill. In the middle of the Muslim period, we have the Crusader period, from 1099 AD to 1187 AD. Many of the gates are just renamed Muslim-era gates. First is the Gate of St. Lazarus. It was located on the western corner of the northern wall in the vicinity of the Church of St. Lazarus. Second is St. Stephen's Gate. This is the Crusader name for the Roman gate on the northern wall known as the Gate of the Column. The Crusaders called it St. Stephen's Gate for St. Stephen's Church, located north of the city. The modern-day Damascus Gate sits on the spot where the Roman and Crusader Gate once stood. Third is the Gate of St. Mary Magdalene. It was located on the eastern section of the northern wall in the vicinity of the monastery of St. Mary Magdalene. This gate is thought to have been located in the area where the modern-day Herod's Gate now sits. Fourth was the Gate of the Valley of Jehoshaphat, also called the Gate of Olives. It was located on the eastern wall of the city. This alternative Crusader-era name for the Jericho Gate refers to the Kidron Valley, which had been called the Valley of Jehoshaphat as early as the Byzantine period. Today, Lion's Gate sits on or near the spot where the Gate of Jehoshaphat once stood. Fifth was Golden Gate. The Golden Gate was only used twice a year in Christian ceremonies, but otherwise remained closed. This is the same gate that we see today. Sixth was the Gate of the Tannery, also called the Iron Gate. It was located on the eastern section of the southern wall in the vicinity of the present-day Dung Gate. Today, it is known as the Tanner's Gate. Seventh was Mount Zion Gate. It was located to the east of the modern-day Zion Gate, about 50 to 100 yards. Eighth was the New Gate of the Belkire. It was located on the southern wall of the city's southwestern corner. The gate's name refers to the suburb of Belkire, located just inside the gate. And ninth was David's Gate, located in the vicinity of the modern-day Jaffa Gate. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for in-depth videos on each of the Ottoman gates that we see today. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to keep me in your feed and help me build my channel.